What is a disturbing fact you wish you could learn? There is a type of crayfish that farms sea stars by cutting all their water legs off and eating it his arms all the way to the center, but leaving the center intact. It then feeds the sea star with kelp to keep it alive so it regenerates, and then repeats the process. When the Challenger exploded in 1986, the astronauts did not die from the explosion, nor did they die from depressurization as NASA has initially claimed. There is some evidence they turned on their personal oxygen supply. They died from impact when they hit the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. They were in free fall for 2.5 minutes. Not only that, but NASA was fully aware of the dangers of the launch. Engineers at NASA warned officials time and time again that the fuel O-ring would fail if they launched at such a low temperature. It was pretty frigid the day of the launch and they ignored them just because they did not want to have to push back the launch date. While indeed partially true and saddening, the G-forces involved as well as the depressurization actually likely caused near immediate unconsciousness in all but possibly 3 of the astronauts, based on activation of their PEEPs or personal egress air packs. This included both mission specialists Ellison Onizuka and Judith Resnick as well as possibly pilot Michael Smith, mostly based on some protected rocker switches which had been moved on the flight control panel nearest his right hand. The packs for Dick Scobie, Rachel McAuliffe and Ron McNair were not activated. The PEEPs were also not pressurized, so likely it would have been impossible to breathe at 14+ kilometers. The PEEPs were intended to be an alternative clean air supply in the event of a fire or contaminant outbreak within the cabin, not an emergency in the event of a loss of cabin pressure. I would like to think all of the astronauts succumbed to hypoxia within the first 25 seconds as the shuttle remains reached apogee, essentially numbed senses followed by unconsciousness. I remember as a child my mum telling me of the story of the horrific murder of James Bulger. Still haunts the UK now in some respects. Parrots often bond with a keeper. From their perspective, as a lifelong romantic partner, if the person dies, or the parrot is displaced, they can go into massive depression and pluck out their own feathers. That's just downright sad. Recently heard of a woman dying of cancer. She had a parrot, and while she was on hospice the bird would visit just like any other family member saying goodbye. They are extremely intelligent, and if possible this is the ideal way to help a bird have the best chance at handling the death. They grieve, but understand what's happening. The woman's parrot was adopted by a family member, I think, and had as happy an ending as possible. No feather plucking. There was a RLPT about letting your dogs see your body after you die, so they know you aren't coming back and don't get depressed. I learned on Reddit that a woodpecker will tap enough to break into a baby bird's skull and slap up their brains. How many skulls could a woodpecker peck if a woodpecker wanted to sate its lust for baby bad brains? That 1 million seconds ago was last week, while 1 billion seconds ago was 1988. If you have an intestinal blockage you can burp up farts and have fecal vomit, which is basically just throwing up your poop. When I was a child my grandmother told me this about one of her potential side effects if she did not visit the doctor for her condition, and I laughed it off as if she was joking. In most cases, when a parasite gets into the brain, they don't remove it. They just kill it with some sort of acid or something with a similar effect, then just let the body calcify it. It's weird cause you'd think that the parasite could still do something. Edit, they don't kill it with acid. My mother has a cousin, honestly not sure, but a family member who got a parasite from eating bad meat on a trip to Mexico. They couldn't remove it as it's burrowed into her brain, so it's still there till this day and she's dying. It's really sad. Last I heard was her mental health was declining rapidly. Tinea Liam. Depending on how it enters the body you can end up with a 7 meters intestinal parasite, or a cyst in various organs such as the liver, the brain or muscles. That's why growing up nobody I knew ate meat of any kind anything less than medium well. There are other parasites in fish that cause serious illness. In countries where raw fish consumption is common, intestinal blockages from parasites happen relatively frequently. Funny thing is that it is not the adult parasites that's the problem. It is the babies. Those tapeworms essentially gestate in animal 1 and can only mature when animal 2 eats animal 1 and the tapeworms with it. There are other tapeworms like Nana-chan who only need a single friend to live in. If everything goes as planned, Animal 1 is a mouse and Animal 2 is a cat. Or Animal 1 is a piggy and Animal 2 is you. But you can also become Animal 1. In which case the poor baby has nowhere to go and will be in a cyst forever. If this happens, please do the kind thing and arrange for your corpse to be fed to dogs or other people after you die. Anyway, my exciting fun fact: the other super common intestinal friend, Askreddit, really hates anesthetics, and they will sometimes make this known by crawling out of your anus and or mouth after you get put under. Exciting fun fact 2: while most tapeworms will happily wait for you to die and be eaten by superior animals, there is one called Echinococcus that helps you along by making really big cysts full of tapeworm fluids. If these cysts burst, you can get sepsis and die. It is like you are pregnant. Except you are pregnant with a bomb. And you can be pregnant in your eye, or lungs, or brain. The Chiquita Banana Company colluded with the CIA to overthrow the democratically elected government of Guatemala, leading to a civil war that lasted 46 years and directly contributed to the ongoing migrant crisis at the border. They called it Operation Success, hence the term Banana Republic. Joseph Fritzl, the man who imprisoned his daughter in an underground cellar for 24 years and raped her approximately 3,000 times. My disturbing fact is thinking about how many cases like this are going on right now that we don't know about or won't know about. Even more disturbing, Fritzl was discovered because he sent one of his children living in the cellar to the hospital. If he were an even bigger monster, the whole thing could have gone on until today. How many tyrants out there created similar situations that just ended with no witnesses alive? Equally worse, what would have happened to the family if Fritzl would have died unexpectedly? Oh my god, I didn't even think of that. If he died, no one would have known they were down there. My biology teacher had a QA session before Christmas, and one student asked if it's possible to be allergic to your own blood. Unfortunately, you can. Just imagine your own immune system destroying your red blood cells. Constant hemorrhaging. Constantly feeling cold and out of breath. When we got back from winter break, we saw a new face in class. A former student of my bio teacher who just so happened to have this disease, and we spent the whole class asking questions. I feel so bad for the guy, but thankfully the medicine available to suppress the immune system has made his life bearable. My college roommate had a similar condition. You can look up called DVT or Behçet's disease. There is medicine to suppress his white blood cells, but yeah, it's still incurable, and he is going to have to take them for life. Cool part: when this dude catches a cold or something, because he is always suppressing his immune system, he has to stop taking his medicines and his ultra WBCs fix him back up. My immune system attacks my platelets. I sometimes forget how blood is supposed to congeal. Yogurt is useful for decomposing dead bodies, since it's already got concentrated and pre-cultured bacteria. Send him to the yogurt chamber. The fact that dogs like squeaky toys because it sounds like their prey crying out in pain. We tried to give my dog squeaky toys for the first few years we had her, but the moment it let out a squeak, she would let go, start nosing it and licking it in concern, and never bite it again. We stopped buying her those because it was causing her too much guilt. She is an angel. It is nice to have that little break as I'm reading through this thread. Where is that rabies post? You mean that very detailed story about how rabies kills you and how your brain literally melts from it? Number. Not that. Jeffrey Dahmer drilled a hole into some victims' skulls and tried pouring different toxic liquids into the hole. He was trying to make a sex slave that could eat and drink, but could in no way fight back or escape. The worst fact is that victims might survive the first hole with all brain function intact and live long enough to be fully aware they were going to get a second or third hole drilled. One of the victims managed to escape. The police were called, and somehow the police turned the 14-year-old victim back over to Dahmer. What the duck? He convinced them that an underage teen was old enough to be his gay lover, and that they were just having a lover's quarrel. My mom told me I have my grandma's nipples. Edit yes. For those asking, I'm a dude. My mom was present at my baby's births, and she commented she was glad I looked like her down there, whatever the duck that means. I've looked at myself in the mirror and nothing different going on than normal anatomy, so it was just weird. Apparently, Japan bombed China with fleas infected with bubonic plague during World War II. Big brain, I think. Often people that fracture their tibia big shin bone, but not their fibula thin shin bone, think they are okay to stand up, and when they put weight through that leg then the fibula breaks too. Right. I forgot legs were shaped like that. Since koalas eat so much eucalyptus, and that stuff produces extremely flammable gases, koalas explode when they get in a wildfire. That's sad and cool at the same time. I would like to explode when I die. There is a type of insomnia that will kill you. Life expectancy is around a year after onset. FFI, fatal familial insomnia. I remember seeing a YouTube channel about a guy who suffered from this, and it was not hard to see him going slowly insane from watching his videos. Any details about the toy box killer's ways of torturing his victims? The guy was a serial rapist. Just leave it at that. I have read the transcript of the tape he played for his victims and just thinking about it turns my stomach. To make this worse, his lead accomplice and girlfriend, Cynthia Hendy, was let out of prison back in 2019. She already served her parole and cut her 36-year sentence down to just 20 years. That's like Karla Homolka actively participated in the torture and rape of 3, I think, teenage girls, including her own sister, and only served 12 years for manslaughter, not even murder. There was a bit of a public outrage afterwards when it became clear that she was a willing and active participant and that the police prosecutors knew this. A man named Hisashi Aochi in 1999 suffered immense radiation poisoning after a nuclear accident. In fact, he is known to have taken more radiation poisoning than anyone else in history. Because of this radiation, it messed up his chromosomes as well as his cells and mind system. He was kept alive for 83 days by scientists and doctors. During that time, by day 20, almost all the skin on his body had fallen off, leaving his entire body in constant pain. Later, the skin around his eyes as well as his eyelids also came off, so his eyes were always open even when asleep. His eyes would also something leak blood, making it look as though he was crying. His intestines were so messed up that he started to have constant diarrhea, which soon started to have large amounts of blood because his intestines were starting to decay from the inside. On day 53, his heart stopped 3 times, but scientists and doctors were able to restart it. He was basically only being kept alive by machines at this point, and the doctors started questioning if it would be more humane to let the man die, as he was in very obvious, unimaginable, indescribable levels of pain and suffering. Some doctors even said that it was torture forcing him to live like this. Due to the radiation, almost all the muscles in his body had been destroyed. The only one that was not was his heart, which was still being kept alive from the various machines. The worst part of all of this is that Aochi was completely conscious throughout all of it, and while he could not talk due to tubes being in his throat to help him breathe, as the radiation also destroyed his lungs, he was in obvious pain every time someone touched him, or even while he was just laying on his bed. And while around the 2-month mark, it is unknown if he even felt pain, as he stopped reacting to being touched as well as stopped thriving in agony 24/7. His pupils still shrank when light was shown into them, suggesting brain activity. Hopefully he did stop feeling pain by then. If not, then that makes it even worse. His body around day 80 was quite obviously to anyone at this point unsalvageable, and mold was starting to develop on his skinless body. He was even described as a corpse with a beating heart, so they decided that trying to save him was not worth it and pulled his plug. When they did, they studied his body and found out that his organs had all started to decay when he was still alive. All of this and more happened to one man who should have been killed out of mercy for his sake. Hisashi Aochi has probably had the most painful, torturous, slowly agony death of all time. Starfish can get infected and rip themselves apart, so the Bikini Bottom horror could be real. Every single fact about bedbugs. I read a story once about a woman who actually came to Reddit seeking help. She was blacking out every night and terrified. Thought her husband, who was a doctor, was drugging and raping her. Got to the point where she got separated and was looking to divorce, but he swore he wasn't doing anything, and the behavior was completely out of nowhere. One Redditor suggested she go look at her bed and asked if she saw a bunch of little black dots in the creases. Turns out she had bed bugs so bad they were giving her a strange reaction and giving her duck in amnesia every night. I thought it went deeper than that. The account that posted it and the one who answered it was thought to be the same person. It was a work of fiction, basically gaslighting people who are drugged and raped into believing it could be bed bugs. I remember someone commenting on the account that suggested it was bed bugs being odd because the poster only replied to that comment and other odd things about when the comment was posted. As of now, I believe it to be a work of fiction with the OP and commenter being one person. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.